Welcome to an hour of power. I am Keith Anthony Blanchard, spiritual teacher, musician, author of the best-selling book Homecoming: Crossing the Bridge to the Soul, and your host of Center of Light. Let's dive in. Hello everyone, and welcome to Center of Light. Keith Anthony Blanchard here. It's coming around the corner. A couple of weeks. It's going to be November 4th. November 3rd and 4th. The world's going to get really noisy. The importance is to be clear about the choices you make. It's going to get loud. All that being said, let's get quiet. I'm going to Melbourne, Florida tomorrow. I am doing a workshop, experiential workshop, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. I'm going to be flying out very early in the morning. Sounds like a great time. I'm looking forward. It's been a while since I got away. So I'm going to the Spirit Fest 2020. Sounds like very, very cool. Mary Ellen Poppick's really good. She's an amazing event coordinator. For those who have not yet purchased my bestseller, which went bestseller, I believe, the second day. It went to number 6 in the UK. But we're going to be doing another push real soon. I just posted in the forum a link to Amazon to purchase this book. As well, for those who have already read the book, this would be a phenomenal time to go to Amazon and leave a review there. That'd be awesome. I have a lot of stuff I can be saying, but I'd rather not say them. I'd rather just get down to some business with my friend, Mr. Gavin Lee Davies, who I'm grateful for. Gavin is responsible. He was the one that after a few years, many years ago, we did an interview on Center of Light Radio when he first got started. We touched base here and there via social media. And I said, bro, you handling some book stuff? He said, sure. I said, I want a piece of that cake. He said, come on, Keith. And so here we sit. But Gavin is a phenomenal author himself. He's been number one in many of his books. I think 3 books. And this book is going to be released tomorrow. It's already number 1 bestseller in many different genres. Wow. He's connected. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to do it. He knows when to do it and when to lay back. So he's created a rhythm in his life. So much so, we're going to be speaking about his new book. It's being released tomorrow called Harvest. The True Story of Alien Abduction. Wow. Let me get my notes. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. The release date is tomorrow. Well, I'll take that. Gavin Lee Davies is the author of the worldwide best-selling haunted horror of Ford West, Gavin's nodding, and Ghost Sex, The Violation. I love these titles, make you want to just get in there and buy it. The Violation, Ghost Sex, The Violation. He created Paranormalchronicles.com. You can find it just like that. The Paranormalchronicles.com. My mouth is all tongue-tied. I don't know why. In October 2013, born in 1975, Gavin Davies lives in Pembrokeshire, West Wales. He has studied hauntings in the 19th century literature. He is also the host of the Paranormal Chronicles podcast. Davies' paranormal reports for the Paranormal Chronicles have made national and international news. His investigations, presented in the book form, have sold over 125,000 copies and have been number 1 bestsellers in 7 different countries. Gavin Davies' passion has always been for the paranormal and has spent years, I love that word when describe someone, years, listening to and collating local ghost stories and myths. He admits he is on the fence in terms of his beliefs. He has witnessed many strange occurrences in his life, but prefers to travel the psychological and rational route before making any assumptions. He respects the views of all on the subject, maintaining that no person, zilch, zero, niet, no person alive has the necessary knowledge and the understanding of time, space, and the intricacies of the human mind to be certain about the paranormal. Gavin Lee Davies describes himself as down-to-earth. That is an absolute fact, without a doubt, and passionate about the paranormal. He has been quoted as saying, "There will be a day where the paranormal will simply be known as normal. I long for that day," he says. So as he is still longing for a few more seconds, I'm going to drop this link where you can jump seat to Amazon and purchase his bestseller that will be released worldwide in your hands tomorrow. Welcome to Center of Light, my bro.
Keith, thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. Thank you, sir. And can I just say to everybody listening, everyone watching, everyone listening, right? If you have not read Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul by now, what are you doing? Please read it. I was so blessed to work with Keith on this amazing journey, on this project. And during the summer, during the height of all this pandemic and protests, I was really struggling. I was finding it really difficult to cope. And I spent a lot of time reading Keith's book. And I was on this show, I'd be listening, I'd be in the forum just there with Keith. And it actually helped me so very much. And I'm so blessed, Keith. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for what you do for me and my authors. I know Susan's out there, Susan Plunkett, who's written the fantastic Mission for Venus series. She's coming on your show. I love that lady. And to all your amazing audience for giving people like me this opportunity to talk about some really wild and wonderful, scary, enlightening, or whatever it is. It just gives us that opportunity to talk. And you, sir, you're a fantastic man. Thank you for all you do.
Blessings. Thank you. Have you been into the weird, strange, spooky, scary stuff since you were a kid?
Since I was 10. And it all wraps in, right? So my experience with the paranormal led me to harvest the true story of alien abduction, okay? So when I was 10 years old, our teacher in school, on hot summer days, we were in class, all sleepy. She'd read us books, Roald Dahl, you know, all the kids' books, right? And then one day, she picks up this book called The Uninvited, which was about a family that lived very close, about 5 miles from where I actually lived, who about 8 years previously had been the epicenter of an alien assault. For all intents and purposes. Pembrokeshire, my little sleepy county. And if you want to know about Pembrokeshire, head over to my Instagram, the Paranormal Chronicles, lots of pictures of the beaches and mountains, and gives you a real sense of where I live. And Pembrokeshire was the UFO hotspot of the world from 1977 to 1982. And this one family, the Coombs family, believed they were subjected to this prolonged paranormal alien assault. They, the mum and the kids were chased by chased in their car by a red orb, by this ball of light. They saw a 7-foot spaceman at the window, a herd of cattle teleported miles within a few seconds. And one of the kids reckoned a disembodied hand was floating around the house and touched her and burnt her. So on this sunny afternoon in school, the teacher read us this book. And that was horrific. I was terrified. It was like, whoa, I can't cope with this. This has just broken my mind. So I went home and I was really upset by all of this. My innocence was lost, I guess. And my dad came home and he knew I was upset. And he's like, what's up, kid? And I said, you know, misread us this book. It's really upset me. And he said, have you ever seen a ghost? And when I was about 4, I had an imaginary friend. I described him, I can't remember this, but I described him to my parents and their friends as this gentleman. He had a top hat and a waistcoat, and he smoked a pipe. And he was really cool. He's a really nice guy. And then one evening, the grown-ups were in the kitchen, and in the corner, they saw this like puff of smoke and they could smell tobacco. And then this Victorian gentleman materialized. And it turned out my imaginary friend wasn't that imaginary after all. He was a spirit that had been haunting this mill that had been converted into a home for many, many years. And my dad said, you know, had he hurt you? And I said, no, he was cool. Like, you know, he's okay. And my dad said, you know, have we ever seen a UFO? And we had seen a UFO when I was about 7. We saw this big light just coming just above the cloud line. You could just see it illuminating the clouds underneath it. And then it just shot up. So just gone. It's like so incredibly quick. You know, I know there's like Harrier jump jets, but this was really quiet and really quick. And he said, were we scared? And I think we were because we ran home. But he said, no, we weren't scared. We were just running home to see the soccer match. And I was like, nah, we ran because he was scared. But the point was, he was saying to me was, the paranormal world is something that needs to be explored. And he said to me, very cynical message at a very young age. He said, it's the living that will do you more harm than the dead. And that the paranormal world makes this world a much more exciting place. to please, to go out and explore it. So from that moment, that was it. I devoured every book I could. I've started reading like Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. There's a book, right? If any of you can get it, it's terrifying. It's called Photographs of the Unknown. That was horrific. And I just had this inclination to listen to people's ghost stories. Did my own investigation when I was 11. And I investigated the White Lady of Harrelstone House because some little kids said they'd seen a white lady running through the undergrowth. So I went to this haunted place, and in the undergrowth was a plastic bag caught in the brambles. And I realized then the power of suggestion, along with a good story and a creepy atmosphere, will conjure a good ghost story. So I kind of learned then that, okay, not everything is as ghostly as it seems. You've got to be a little wise. You've got to rationalize what's going on and be a bit objective in what you're trying to do here. And that's how it was all born. And that incredible journey took me through the books of A Most Haunted House. And do you know what, Keith? I was thinking, right? It's been over 6 years since I've been on your show. 6 years, sir. You were one of the first ever people to interview me about the ghost sex, the violation account.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't think you would, because I didn't think your show would be a fit for me. And you actually gave me one of the best ever interviews on the ghost sex phenomena. And to anyone listening, watching tonight, if you can find that in Keith's archives, go and watch it. Keith did an amazing job of bringing a very delicate and brutal subject to light in a digestible manner for a PG audience.
You know, Gavin, I would think that the paranormal dimension has to be as vast as the universe itself. And, we're talking about just the Earth and the things that happen in our sensory input bandwidth possibility. I mean, life is teeming everywhere in the universe on every possible levels we don't even know that exist. So there has to be some out of balance nonsense a little bit everywhere, wouldn't you think?
Most definitely. Like, as you said very rightly, like if you look at the variety of life and conditions that can exist in just this planet, right? And that is what we can see within our perceptions. We can only see a certain visual range. We can only hear a certain auditory range. We can only feel and see so much. And we only use 10% of our brains. And I'm not gifted or psychic or anything of that ability. I'm probably a little bit empathic because I am bipolar. I really pick up on emotions, and I had a mini stroke a couple of years ago. So all my emotions are incredibly amplified. I love hard, I hurt hard, I laugh hard, I get angry, really like that. I go all, I get crazy angry. And if we only use 10% of our brain, okay, and imagine our brain is like a radio, right? So my brain is like FM. I can pick up like all the channels on FM. And there's people out there, probably people listening and watching now, right? Their brains have got AM. They've got they got like MW. They got all these different bands, right? So they can hear and see and feel different stuff, right? And that's just a start. And then you look at our actual reality and all the physics that goes with it. And then, the psychological facets alone are mind-boggling, pardon the pun. There's so much that our minds are capable of. And then you think about, okay, is there different dimensions? There's certainly life. I think it'd be very ignorant and naive of us not to believe there is life in this universe, in this galaxy. There might be some life in this solar system. I don't know if it'd be advanced or sophisticated, but I imagine in some of the oceans on the moons and planets, there might be some kind of life that would be very interesting beyond microbes. But then you think about like dimensions, right? And during the summer, during the protests in America, right, within 10 days, 3 news stories broke, right? But nobody really paid any attention, okay? Because we're in the height of the pandemic. America was in the protests and the riots and the civil unrest, and the whole world was just in chaos, okay? 3 news stories. Number 1, the Pentagon announced that they are actively investigating unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is the new cool word for UFOs. Number 2, NASA said through the maths and science of their stuff, right, and their boffins, they can guarantee there's a minimum of 8 Earth-like planets in our galaxy, right? And I think that's a low figure. I think 8 is low, but hey, I'll take 8
That's
over
what
9.
I'll take it, but that's way low.
And number 3 was there was an experiment done. I believe it was the Antarctic. It could have been the North Pole. I apologize if I got mixed up, right? They were doing experiments where they detected particles working in reverse to our own. And they've got the first ever evidence of a parallel dimension working in reverse to our own. Okay? These aren't tin pot forums and conspiracy websites. These are on the news. The Pentagon stuff that was originally released in 2017. They re-released it again, which I thought was a bit weird. I spoke to one of my colleagues who said, "Oh, they've announced this UFOs footage and stuff like that," and he said, "Yeah, they've already done that because we're in a period of soft disclosure now, and we're slowly being leaked little by little bit more, little bit more, little bit more. So within 10 years, when we talk about unidentified aerial phenomenon, dimensional beings, parts of the brain capable of different things, we'll be like, yeah, cool. There won't be riots. There won't be chaos. The world won't split in two. Everything will fine. And even Paul Anthony Wallace, right, who wrote the incredible book. It was such a great year for books, right? You had Paul Anthony Wallace's Escaping from Eden. You had your own book, Homecoming. Absolutely superb year. And then you got Susan Plunkett. She had Mission to Venus. Now she's got Wanderers from Earth coming out. You had Carol Oakley's Wisdom from the Spirit World, right? But all these great books come out, right? And Paul Anthony Wallace in Escaping from Eden, which if you're really into like biblical and UFO mysteries all combined, this guy used to be a church minister, right? And he's kind of gone away from that and he's reinterpreted the Bible. But he said the Vatican, the Pope and his mates, all those guys, right? They have a press release ready to go out to the world, to the whole Catholic population, for the day that it's announced there is sophisticated advanced alien life form in the galaxy, right? And the PR is basically just controlling the narrative and saying, yeah, there are aliens out there, and that doesn't really worry us. It doesn't affect anything you believe or have believed. It just means that God had a bigger plan. So nobody will worry. There won't be rioting in the streets. There won't be people going mad and looting and shooting each other. It'll just be a case of, oh, yeah, we knew about that in December 2017.
Gavin, some of the rabbit holes that I've ventured into, when I do my research, I don't just believe everything everyone has to offer. I watch from afar. And after you practice a particular craft for a while, you get intuitive about it. And so as I do my research for over these years, I know who is upstanding. The first thing I look for is, what do they have to lose? Right? Yeah. What do they have to lose? And then you begin to see a language between people. Even if you just found someone just a moment ago on YouTube, you watch for about 10 minutes and you can hear something else existing beyond the actual dialogue being said. You can tell by their book covers. You can tell by the way they scratch their nose. Things become heightened. You can start navigating into some of these deep, dark forest areas, at least with a little bit of a light. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of find your way a little bit. And in some of these researchings that I've done, some of these people that I truly believe are at least onto something, they say that in the Vatican, there's different levels. And on some of the sub levels, there's actually artifacts, things down there as to why they already know and have that document prepared. Because I'm sure the Vatican itself would have to want absolute proof before they would put their neck out there in the news to make such a declaration and an announcement. So somehow the Vatican, I think, has some sort of true insight and knowledge, and not just like, we got this prepared in case this goes down because we were told it's true, and we're going to do our part and do as we're told. There's something, there's so much stuff in the Vatican. I'm assuming there's knowledge and levels that will never be released until they're forced to, on many subjects, the spiritual as well as the paranormal.
Well, think about it, okay? The most, the largest, wealthiest, most militaristic nation on the planet have said that unidentified aerial phenomenon exists, right? This is the country, right? That for years claimed that there was no top secret government program. They claimed that, Project Blue Book, despite investigating over 12,000 UFO sightings, said there was nothing of substance to it, even though 701 remain unexplained to this day. So 701 of those UFO cases, they still haven't got an answer for. So you can't say swamp gas or Venus or whatever, right? They just didn't have an answer for, right? And they were working really hard. They were working really, really hard to get answers, right? And UFOs have been seen by the police, military personnel, doctors, commercial aviators, politicians, royalty, scientists, and even presidents, okay? But the media have just been told, I believe anyway, to just tinfoil hats and little green men. Every time somebody was, especially around in my country, like the Sun newspaper and mirrors like that, the Daily Star, for years, if somebody came out with a UFO encounter, they would simply put a joke on about alien anal probes, little green man, tinfoil hats. They just took the mickey. They just mocked it, right? So what you're saying is that you know, like, we know this has been going on for 70 years. The American government lied, probably to protect us, but now suddenly they've just said, yeah, there is stuff coming in. We don't call them UFOs anymore. We call them unidentified aerial phenomena, yeah? And then Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the leader of the second most powerful nation of all time after the United States, he said the phenomenon of UFOs is real and it must be treated seriously. The Belgian government in the early 90s, their pilots were chasing UFOs and they recorded them on radar. The Japanese have said UFOs are real. A lot of the Middle Eastern countries said UFOs are real. I don't know, how they know this. Australia said it's real. People like Nick Pope have come out from the United Kingdom saying that the British have been investigating UFOs for years, right? And of course, our religious leaders know the truth, because one day we might not be able to control the narrative and something just plonks itself down in a canyon, in a park, on the White House lawn, wherever, okay, in front of the Kremlin. And suddenly we're like, whoa, everything we've been taught as human beings no longer exists. Our mythologies, our history, our philosophies, our religions, everything, bump. And slowly, right, if you think about it, since the 1940s, since this, alleged Roswell incident, we have been conditioned, right? We've been conditioned with movies about UFOs, science fiction, books, video games, shows like the X-Files. We've been conditioned. So by the time we get to December 2017, and the Pentagon announced that their best pilots in the world, in the best aircraft, are being outmaneuvered at every opportunity by these tic tacs and whatever you want to call them, we're cool with it. We're cool. This isn't War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, farmer shooting his family because he's scared big tripods are coming through the door. We've accepted it already. The majority of us have accepted it. I guarantee probably 99% of your audience right now, they're absolutely fine with the notion that sophisticated alien life, A, exists in our galaxy, not universe, galaxy, and B, that it has visited Earth, and probably C, that there is some interaction with us and them. Now, one interesting thing is, right, and it gave me a lot of hope. Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, is the most horrific side of the spectrum you can imagine, okay? We're talking abduction, experimentation, evidence of hybridization, and ultimately harvesting. Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, there is nothing positive about it. I worked on it for 6 years and it had a profound negative effect on my mental health, okay? This is my last investigation. But there's one gentleman, right, and he sat here, he sat on the other side of me, right there, whichever direction is the point of Keith, right? And Keith gives me hope, okay, because his experience was profoundly spiritual. His was profoundly uplifting. And Paul Anthony Wallace, again from Escaping from Eden, said there is a cabal, there is an agenda amongst a race of aliens. That is why we're not just invaded. That's why the aliens just don't turn up. There's a cabal of aliens, right? And they have an agreement, right? There's a charter amongst them. So some of them are coming here and they're trying to spiritually enhance us. They're trying to give us knowledge, enlightenment. They're trying to give us a leveling up, right? Because they know if we can snap out of our current funk, right? And we can start to shackle ourselves from the way our governments, our tribalistic nature, from our religions, and we can elevate ourselves spiritually and radiate as we should, that we're in for a treat. We're going to fix the environment. We're going to end hunger, murder, war, all the bad stuff, right? But then you've got other races. They see us as rats, they see us as monkeys, they see us as animals, they see us as insects, right? And they have no hope for us. If they turned on the news, right, and they judged us, we've got war, famine, pandemics, corrupt politicians, people killing babies, people killing each other, just really bad stuff. So there's a balance, right? There is a balance between those that want to liberate us from ourselves and spiritually enhance us, and those that see us as no more as animals, right? Hence, they are happily coming down here, hybridizing us, experimenting on us, abducting on us, and ultimately harvesting us. So that balance is up to us, guys. You know, we can carry on the way we have, or we can prove to these nefarious, sinister aliens that we're not animals and we've actually got a soul and we're worth fighting for.
The book Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, is about a particular woman. Is that correct?
Yeah, Susan.
Is this still transpiring with her, or is that past? Is that history from you writing from her past that this is over and done with, or does she still get paid visits?
She hasn't had a visit since I've last spoken to her. She's still traumatized by dreams, nightmares, and visions. Once you've had these kind of experiences, I imagine it's very, very difficult to just let go. She is currently in Australia, backpacking. That's where I believe her to be, Australia or New Zealand. The agreement is if I don't hear from her within 2.5 years, that I will be able to disclose the full information, a full story, a full details, because she will be considered a missing person. Susan basically wrote this.
So you have information beyond what's in Harvest that's
Yes.
sitting on wait. God forbid something would happen to this lady.
Yes, it's protection. It's protection. Basically, when I do an investigation, right? When I do an investigation, I sit down with the subjects, right? And the first thing is, as you said earlier, you've got to discern, is this person in what motive, what agenda does this person have? Okay. Are they here because they're looking for fame, money, whatever? The amount of people who come to work to me, email me, hey, GL, I've had this amazing haunted house experience. This would be a great Netflix film. And I'm like, hey, dude, that's not me. That's not what I'm here to do, okay? What I like to do, I had my own paranormal experience, which had a profound effect on me. And I wrote about it in a very matter-of-fact, kitchen sink, warts and all. Was this a haunting that ruined my life at the time? Or was my life in free fall and the psychological damage was making the effects that my life was haunted, right? We've got to be reasonable. We've got to be rational. That was my first ever investigation. It was a book called A Most Haunted House. I'm profoundly dyslexic. I didn't have a publisher. I just wrote it and I put it out there. Bump, 75,000 copies sold. And before you know it, people are coming up to me saying, do you know what? That was one of the best accounts of a haunting because it felt real. Yeah, there was no spinning heads and people climbing the walls. It was just your day to day and that emotional decay as relationships crumble, dependency rises, affairs, arguments, losing money, losing jobs, losing people in life, and losing a house. Okay, that's what A Most Haunted House was. And I followed that up with Ghost, Sex and Violation, where I sat with a lady who, one of the nicest women I've ever met in my life, believed she's been sexually traumatized and abused by a ghost. So we get to my study into UFOs. I come across Susan, and she was down to earth, highly intelligent, highly wary, ashamed, embarrassed, but had this need to come to me because she'd read my other stuff and she felt that out of all the investigators locally, I was somebody who could actually help her. So what she was trying to do was she was trying to, A, have some form of catharsism, to come out the closet, the paranormal closet, so to speak. I know that sounds very dramatic, but for some people, coming out the closet and talking about paranormal events that have happened to them, it's the same kind of pressure, anxiety some people have to tell their parents that they're gay. They just don't know what result. You can't just go into your workplace and sit with your boss and go, listen, boss, I came in late today because I think my house is haunted. You know, you can't do it. You just can't do it, can you? You can't just go up to your mates in a bar and you're playing pool and you missed a shot and they're like, what's up? Go, oh, you know, really scared. I saw this UFO last night and now I can't play billiards. You can't do that. We are not, even though we're in this period of soft disclosure, we're not actually in a world tolerant to paranormal beliefs and experience. Yet, mankind, humanity's existence is based on religious dogmas, which are pretty much the most paranormal things you will ever read, ever, right? So I've got nothing against people believing in religion and reading the Bible and taking it as gospel, pardon, but I've got no problem with that. But how can we accept that and then can't accept the fact that alien visitors might be coming into our world, or demons, or angels, or ghosts, or spirits, when the Bible itself is full of them?
It's full of it. In fact, to the the greatest degree, that if this God is omnipresent and we have paranormal activity here on Earth, then if this omnipresence, there has to be, like I said earlier, it has to be teeming with all kinds of fluctuations of balances and imbalances, checks and balances throughout everything. You know, I think I agree with you. Many people, most people, are leaning to the idea that it's all real. It just doesn't interest them yet until it gets their attention, because it's coming. It's coming.
If there's anyone out there, okay, who's, you know, like, you believe in God, right? And that's brilliant. I don't know. I'm just a guy living in Wales. I'm just a guy living in my little cottage. I'm dyslexic and bipolar. I got my gimmicks up on my radiator here. I'm talking to Keith, a guy I love to bits, right? He's a good friend, right? I don't know the answers, right? But I've spoken to many people within my lifespan who've had, you know, paranormal experiences. I've met people who said, I don't believe in the paranormal, but when my mum died, I thought I saw her at the bottom of the stairs. I don't believe in UFOs, apart from when I was a kid, I saw this huge light fire through the sky. It stopped, did incredible things and shot off. So you don't believe in UFOs, but you've seen one. You don't believe in ghosts, but you've seen your mother's spirit at the bottom of the stairs the minute she died. Okay, you don't believe, right? And then you look in the Bible, there is a unicorn, a leviathan, a behemoth, a dragon are all mentioned. The Star of Bethlehem, whatever it wasn't a star. We've got the religious miracles. We've got the Immaculate Conception, the raising of the dead, the walking on water, everything in Revelations. And that's just like 30 seconds. The Bible is the most paranormal account. And why, as a people, we are so frightened of it, I don't know. I think it's because science can't prove it, you know, but then we can't prove God. But most of us believe that God is there anyway. The Bible is full of demons, right? And people have real experiences with demons. But we say it's rationale. It's just something in the head. The Bible is chock-a-block full of sightings of angels and interactions with angels. And dozens, millions, well, dozens, I don't know, dozens of millions, that's a big gap. But like a lot of people, right? They have experiences with angels and guardian angels. Yet we look at them like they're crazy. And it's like, guys, what do you want us to do here? Do you want us to believe over here that this is real, but this is wrong? Let's all just have an open mind about it all. Let's just all have an open mind. And let's not judge and harass and troll and bully those who've had a paranormal experience. Let's not make someone feel stupid and ashamed for saying, do you know what? I woke up in the night and I thought there was like someone stood in the corner of the room. Or I was driving home one night and I saw a bright light, and then 5 seconds later, I was 60 miles away. Because if we could all get very comfortable and share our experiences freely, guess what? Maybe we could learn some stuff. Now, I have to discern myself before I can conduct an investigation. You've got to think, these investigations take me 5-6 years, okay? I had someone contact me who claimed her husband would go into the shower and be an octopus, and then he would get back into a skin suit and be her husband. Now, I didn't want to be rude, but I said to her, have you got a photograph? And she was like, nah, he's not very photogenic. And I said, being photogenic is probably the least of your problems if he's an actual alien octopus, right? So I'm not necessarily interested in those when I'm exploring these cases. What I want is people who are almost frightened. They don't want to talk to me about it because they're frightened. They don't want anything for it. They're not talking money. They're not talking Netflix. They're not sat here talking to you, Keith. They're not sat talking to Oprah.
They're just not talking.
They're just not talking. They tell me, and with Susan, there was two things. A, it was cathartic, and B, it was a warning. Because this woman, right, she'd never been into the paranormal. Her family were not religious. Her family were professionals at the highest order. She was given the roadmap to be a professional at the highest order. She was studying. This was a woman, right, who by the time she was 30 would have been in a highly paid profession. She would have probably been married. She would have probably had the house, 5 bedrooms, with the car on the drive, probably many cars on the drive, beautiful children, beautiful husband, the dream life. If you believe that to be a dream life, if that's your vision of a dream life, she had it. She did not get involved with the paranormal. She didn't go on a Ouija board. She didn't go on a ghost hunt. These things were off her radar. She did not believe in these things. She never had a discussion about Bigfoot or aliens or ghosts or anything. Her family would go to church out of duty. Christmas, mass, weddings, christening, funerals, that was it. They were not religious people. And this found her. What she believes to be alien dimensional beings came to her and wrecked her life. This woman, when I spoke to her, was in her mid-20s, and she doesn't believe she will make it past 40. And she spends every day paranoid that in the night, that is the time they will come one last time, because she believes that she has seen people on some kind of vessel. She couldn't work out if it was a base, underground, whatever, but it was like a huge cavernous factory, and it had thousands of women on there, and there was different levels of experience. From she was in a line of women where they were having tubes and needles and pipes going into her vaginal areas, anus, nose, eyes, mouth, ears, taking little samples. She saw an area where there was women giving birth and having the children taken immediately, while these strange bulbous creatures were falling on the prone mothers. And she saw older women, infirm women, disabled women being harvested entirely. Now, thankfully, what gives me hope and hasn't sent me completely mad was there are people like Keith, there are people out there that have had profoundly positive alien experiences. But unfortunately, in Harvest, A True Story of Alien Abduction, Susan was not one of these people. And what happened to her is heartbreaking. In the book, I look at the psychological rationale behind it. And Susan prayed. She begged me, Gavin, can you prove I am mad? Can you prove this does not exist? Can you prove this is not happening to anyone else? Because if I could, there was hope.
There was hope. There would be some level of hope there for her.
Yeah.
Wow. I've heard this over many years, Gavin, from, again, my research and intuition that I very much research and follow. That these beings there are many reasons in one abduction. One is for the hybridization, the other is for experimentation, and the other is when, like you said, the child would be ripped from the mother. What they're supposedly trying to figure out is this thing called love and emotion. They don't really per se know what that is, but they understand that when they separate the mother from the child, that this thing begins to happen, this screaming from the mother. She, even though the mother has a hybrid child in her body, that is her child, but that when there's the separation between the mother and the infant, they're still trying to figure out what that thing is that we have that they don't have, and that is a deeper level of feeling.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's really strange you should say that, Keith, because that is a very poignant point there, is that there was 3 nights Susan had, and it's very much detailed in Harvest, the true story of alien abduction. And what I'd like to do is, anyone listening, watching now, I would like you to join the investigation. Everything I do is an invitation. All my books are an invitation to you, the reader, okay? And I don't care where you are in the world, how old you are, whether you believe or you don't believe. What I would really, really like is for people to read Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, right? And contact me with your interpretations, your thoughts, and your experiences. So that gives me a wider, broader understanding of what's happening. I'm just one guy. I'm 45. I live in Wales. I won't have the same experience as, say, a 60-year-old lady living in New York, or a Japanese 18-year-old living in Tokyo. Okay, Japanese man living in Tokyo, right? And with Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, it is so rich and fertile in very surreal and abstract imagery of some of the communication these beings were having with Susan, and they are on a totally different level. And for 3 nights, Susan had the same experience, where she'd have a very strange dream. It would always lead her to the same place. And like Keith was saying, they were trying to figure out or understand emotional connections. So on the second night, Susan was in this familiar place within a dreamlike vision, this lucid dream, and sat opposite her was her younger self when she was like 5 or 6 years old. And there was telepathic communication, but Susan was very aware that in this room, just out of sight, there was people there. And telepathically, her younger self was asking her questions like, if there was a fire, who would you save first, mum or dad? And Susan would answer in her mind, and she would hear like a chorus of voices behind her, and a voice almost judging her, making a decision. She'd save her dad. And Susan would be screaming in her mind, no, I'd save them both. And one of the questions her younger self asked was, I won't go into the graphic detail, but the ins and outs of it was, if you were sexually abused, would you enjoy it? And Susan is screaming in her mind, no, of course. She was imagining the violation taking place. And these beings, this voice, collective voice, said she would. And she was screaming in her mind. And on the 3rd night, which is very, very common in both positive and negative abduction experiences, she witnessed, or she was privy to an apocalyptic vision happening right here in Pembrokeshire. The refineries down here on fire. The river was, the estuary was bubbling and steaming, and it was all like a tidal wave, and the ships were rolling around on fire. People were melting, children were dying. The town was a big crater filling up with water and steam. There was ash pouring from the sky. And Susan didn't know if this was the end, like a huge catastrophe here in Pembrokeshire, or if this was the end of the world. And it wasn't until after I'd finished the interviews with Susan that I found out that the apocalyptic vision for abductees is profound. It is so common. And it's almost as if I asked Susan, what do you think they meant by this? And she thought either they were showing humans need to change our ways because this is what's going to happen, or they were saying, don't fight what we're doing, because this is what's going to happen to you. Your life, your existence, your race, it's futile, it's pointless.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can go as far as understanding that, let's play the spiritual game here, the spiritual card. There might be a contract. Well, you get a chance to go down the earth. Well, for you, it's laid out this way. I'm willing to play that game. certain things may take place. And it could be for survival of humanity in the great future or so forth. But none of that airy-fairy spiritual bells and whistles stuff is going to fly on someone who's getting things probed up their backsides, getting pieces of their flesh removed, being talked to the way they are, being abused in every possible level. Gavin, I don't know how much you reveal from your book about certain details, but did she ever, or she probably didn't even care, what particular species did they say who they were? And other than the fact that, you can't interfere because we're important to the survival of your own species, so don't fight us. But did they ever announce who they were?
No, this is really strange. It's an excellent question, by the way, Keith. You're the only person who's asked me that. I was talking to an alien abduction expert. He's one of the top leading abduction experts in the world. And he contacted me and we had a little chat because he was really interested, because there was a lot of similar tropes to alien abduction that he could recognize from the thousands he had documented. But he said there were some that were unique to Susan's case. And one of those was who these beings were. Now, we're all familiar with the Nords, the reptilians, the Greys. We've got all these different races, right? But these ones seem totally different. Now, there was a hierarchy that Susan described. And she gave them little names just to kind of like make sense of who they were. So one of them was a red ball of light. She described it as like fire in a globe. And it's a very, very, very common sight, and it's fire in glass. Lots and lots of people have seen it. After the interview, I did some local research, and the amount of people had seen this globe thing was phenomenal. And she called that the shepherd, because every time she saw that, she would be abducted. So if you are seeing these red lights all the time, guys, maybe double check that you're not missing time or something's happening to you. I don't mean to like scare you, but those were like a key indicator that something bad was going to happen very soon. And then there was something she called the controllers, and they were incredibly skinny, black, shiny black humanoids, impossibly skinny, with a very, very large, smooth head. And she described it almost like wearing a crash helmet back to front. So if you could imagine a motorcycle helmet, but you put it on back to front, so you just had like this insectoid, black, smooth face, right? That's what she called the controllers. Then there was these weird, bulbous, jellyfish-like creatures with bioluminescent stuff going on. They walked on incredibly skinny legs, and she had this dream or vision that they were on top of her auntie and the cat while they were sleeping, and these were forcing some kind of very skinny vein-like tendrils into the nose and the mouth, into the ears, to the degree that the cat was actually being lifted off the bed as it slept, as these things were going into it. The cat died the next day, and the auntie died 3 months later of horrific cancer, okay? And then finally, a very strange moment, and a one-off event for her was she had like this moment where everything seemed to stop. Time stopped. It was like there was control of time, physics, our technology, even her mind. And she claimed she saw a red-skinned woman. She thought it was a woman in some kind of red outfit with reddish brown skin and big almond eyes. And she called that the hybrid, because she felt that had once been a human or evolved from humans. So I've done research, like the red ball is familiar, hybrid style aliens are familiar, but the other two aren't so common. So if anyone has had that experience or understands what these things are, or any of the things I'm talking about makes real sense to you, some of the imagery and some of the motives and the agendas behind these attacks, please email me at harvestalienabduction@gmail.com. That's harvestalienabduction@gmail.com, because as I said, I invite everyone to read Harvest, A True Story of Alien Abduction, because I want you to be an investigator. I want you to be in your armchair, and I want you to read it. I spent a long time interviewing Susan. I spent a long time getting the detail. scrutinizing every word, every experience, taking it back as far as I can, so that you, in this book, you have the complete investigation. You will know how she felt, what she was eating, what she was doing. You will find out everything you know about her to help you decide what you think's been going on.
Out of all the different beings I have learned about over the many years and their appearance, what you described is nothing like I've ever heard. Did these beings hang out together, or these were different? I think I heard you say the shepherds. Is that what you said? Shepherds?
Shepherds were these balls of light. Basically, they were. It was very similar to flames, fire within glass. That's what she described them. Very, very common here in Pembrokeshire. Red orbs going down estuaries and waterways, more commonly seen around waterways, but not exclusive. They were seen in the Preseli Hills, which were then mountains, I believe. And then the only time she saw proximity was when she was on this vessel. It was like cathedral shaped, just organic, just factory industrious, like an abattoir. And these red lights were flying about, and people who fell. There was a woman who fell. This thing just came along and it just kind of picked her up with an incredibly thin wire or whatever, I don't know, and just flew off with it, and God knows did what with it. And she went into another section, and below her were women huddled against the wall, and they were heavily pregnant, but some of the women were already on the floor. And she said the organic matter that coated the place was almost like a pasta, like a minced meat you'd have with pasta. It was just this weird organic texture. And she said there was women lying on the floor giving birth unaided, and as soon as the child came out, the baby came out, these red lights would just come and pick them up. No cutting of the umbilical.
So Gavin, so even though this is abuse, we're thinking aliens, intelligent. There's no clinical. This is not being on a ship or in some other place where things are being administered in a clinical way. It's just brutal.
It's no bright lights and metal tables and stuff like that. It is just like an abattoir. It's like a factory, okay? Like if you like Susan makes it very, very clear in Harvest, a true story, the true story of alien abduction, right? She makes it very, very clear that her story, her account, her testimony isn't some pious rant about animal welfare or environmental issues. As I said, she was on a clear-cut trajectory to success, right? Everything else was secondary. You know, it was just work, career, family, money, wealth, health, etc. Right? She's not saying she was totally, out of tune with what was going on in the world, but it wasn't her priority. So her account isn't about animal rights and the environment, but she said we were treated like animals, how we treat animals. Okay, so like if you've ever seen videos of whaling, and they just harpoon those whales and they bring them up to the ship and they slice them open and they're cutting into them and there's blood and guts going everywhere, right? You see an abattoir. Cattle are just herded down these like metal, like walkways, and they get a bolt in the head. And the cows behind, they start panicking because they can smell the death. They know what's going on. They're trying to hop over it. You drive past, you're in your car and you're driving past a field and you see like 50 herd of cattle in there. You don't think about what's going to happen to them. You don't think what happens when those cows have their calves come off them. You don't think what happens when they just chuck a bull in there and he goes around having his way. We don't think of it because it's a cow. We don't have that emotional connection with them. We don't stop and think. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, you probably do. But for the meat eaters, you don't care where your fish came from when it's on your plate, your leg of lamb or your beef burger. You don't care. You really don't care. And these things, these beings, we are the cattle. We are the fish. And when you think about the berserk stuff, right, we do to animals, not so much us in the West, America and Canada and the UK and Ireland, and Australia, we don't really do this, but in Oriental countries, in the Far East and Asia, they will kill things like dolphins and sharks as an aphrodisiac. This whole pandemic started, I'm not judging, because of the extent and variety of animals the people were eating in Asia. And they have to, because I get it, because of the huge populations, they can't be fussy. But they were eating animals I've never heard of. I didn't even know what a pangolin was until the virus. It looked like a big lizard dog. It's like, why are they eating that? You know, why they, there's like this little monkey, there's like this monkey dog. I said, why are we eating that? I'd love to have that as a pet. Because it's different, because we're Westerners, aren't we? Like we've got different things, but we're Westerners, but we don't worry about lamb. Lamb, when we eat lamb, that is a baby sheep, because the big sheep, that's mutton, and mutton is a hard, fatty meat to eat. Lamb is tasty. We don't care. We don't worry about the feelings or emotions for animals, because we have blanked out the fact that they have any. And they do have emotion, because I've seen videos where cows are chasing after trucks with the calves are in. I've seen videos where cows are trying to leap over the barrier because they don't have a bolt put in their head in the abattoir. We've seen it. Whales, I was watching a thing the other night. Whales, they teach each other whale song. And each different pod of whales, whatever they're called, a herd of whales, they have different songs for different regions. And yet for years we were harpooning them, just slicing them up. So these creatures, these aliens, these beings, dimensional beings, demons, whatever label you want to give it, it doesn't matter, because we are at the bottom of the food chain. They don't care what they do. They really don't care. And like, to put it into perspective, right? Over 625,000 people a year go missing in America, okay? Okay, not all of them are taken by aliens, of course not. Suicides, cults, people going off the grid, murderers, you name it, people having mental illness. Yeah, trafficking, all that. Million different things, right? Something like 1.89% are unsolved mysteries. They shouldn't have vanished. There's no feasible explanation why they vanished, right? So we're looking at something like 7,000 people a year in America vanish, like, bump, gone.
State parks,
missing 411. Was it 411? The missing 411 documentaries, right? People get lost. People fall in the sea. Get it. But even still, we start chipping away that number. We still got a large number. Every 90 seconds, somebody in the United Kingdom goes missing. Every 90 seconds, an island. 30,000 people a year go missing in Australia. Okay. And we've got to think, if our governments and the United States government are now telling us that these unidentified aerial phenomena are coming into our airspace, right? We got to start thinking, right? Okay, who are these people and what do they want? Now, if North Korean, Chinese, Russian aircraft are flying into North American airspace willy-nilly, there would be an outcry from the American people, Canadian people as well. If the same nations, North Korea, Russia, China, are flying into America, kidnapping your wives, your daughters, your mums, your friends, your community members, and harvesting them, putting them in hybridization programs, experimenting on them, you would go to war. You would go to war and you would finish that fight. To the extent, right, that the International Space Station, right, they've given up editing stuff in the background. They've just given up. There's so much stuff coming and going in and out of our airspace, right? They've just given up. There's something called the solar stereoscopic relay, is a satellite that is fixed on the sun, right? And all it does 24/7 is film the sun, okay? And now we get these big pixels on the sun, and people think it's the Borg from Star Trek. No. The pixels, and it's not the pixel. The pixels is censorship. The pixel is there to cover something. It's what's behind the pixels we should be concerned with. And there's all these objects coming and going out of our planet. And the United States government, the Pentagon, have now said, yeah, they're real. So now we've got to ask ourselves who, why, and for what reason. Now, to put it into context, right? Okay, if people have been, in fact, if Susan saw hundreds or thousands of people on this spacecraft, how are they getting away with this, right? If I went into Keith's house tonight and I went into his wallet and I took all his money and all his credit cards, right? He's probably got a picture of me in there as well. And I took that out as well, okay? In the morning, Keith's going to think, somebody's robbed me. Someone's gone into my house and stolen all my good stuff, right? He's going to call the cops. He's going to get Buy homecoming. Let's fill that wallet up for Keith. It's a brilliant book, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Okay, but if I came into Keith's house every night and I snuck in and I took $1 every day for a year, he wouldn't even notice, right? So if we put that into context and what may be happening here, there's over 200 countries on the planet. Okay, so if we take 2 people from Canada, 2 people from America, 2 people from the UK, Australia, and so on, every day, every night across the world, that's 400 people. What's that? 2,500 people a week, 250,000 people a year. You know, what are we talking about? 2.5 million people a decade, maybe 25 million people a century. And Paul Wallace in Escaping from Eden says this goes back in time immemorial. This has been going back since we were coming out the caves. They're interested in bloodlines. So if you're being abducted, right, whether it's a positive experience or a horrifically negative experience like Susan's having in Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, they've been following your bloodline for 10,000 years.
Long time.
This
has been going on so
a long time.
Long time.
And people are still like, I don't know, is it? Tinfoil hats and little green men, anal probes. And people are still laughing about it. But this really interesting theory was that, and Keith probably subscribes to this, you get the same handler. So the people who are abducting you, they've been abducting your ancestors 10, 12,000 years ago. And time is totally different. Their concept of time and reality is totally different from ours. So when they're abducting you, they're going, oh, not as good looking as Blub from 4,000 years ago. He was a great looking guy, you know. And these things are highly invested in us, and we don't know why. So just speculating, you've got the alien beings, you know, the good ones like the Nords possibly, and the Blondes, and these guys and dudes there. They want to spiritually upgrade us, enhance us, evolve us to the next level because they see that we have worth, that we can be that cosmic seed that populates our side of the galaxy and be a solid, hardy, hardworking race of people. Okay, that's brilliant. And we can spread that love. Think about the propensity we have for love, for art, for music, for science. Look what we do that is so good. When you look at the core essence of mankind, of humanity, of all the men and the women on this planet, and every child has the opportunity, we are an incredible species. But then you look on the flip side and we kill everything and we eat everything. We chop down the lungs of the planet. We chop down the rainforests and we pollute the oceans with plastics. You know, I watched the David Attenborough show the other night. We have lost over half of the resources of trees and wildlife and species in 60 years, guys. There's not going to be a
Gavin,
lot left.
it's almost as if we're trying to unconsciously prove to ourselves how resilient and robust we are.
Yeah, to make as hard as we can. And how easy is that? How easy is that for an alien race who's basically FM? We're coming down. We'll eat them. We'll harvest them, we'll hybridize them because they could be useful in our world or colony worlds. And guess what? Keith, he looks like he'd be a great aphrodisiac. We'll come down and harvest him.
I know you're kind, boy. I'm coming for you. Gavin, did Susan ever experience seeing some of the same people often, or did she tell you this? Some of the same people often in certain situations? Or did she even tell you that she recognized some of these people from being here on this rock?
When it's very strange, very surreal. Now, what I found was very interesting about Susan was that she could recall certain parts without regression. That was one of the key fundamental reasons why I took on her case, okay? And Susan would have these very strange dreams where she would come out of some woodlands, she'd be naked, and she had this fear that there was an owl chasing after her. And in front of her, it'd be dark. Everything would be bathed in red light, and there'd be tall grass over a stream, and there'd be a fox. and the fox would lead her into the tall grass. So Susan, in what she thought was a dream state, and later on she believed was an actual state, was an actual reality, she'd be walking through this tall grass, naked, and then she would come across other people. And she came across a woman from Africa who couldn't speak English. She came across a young, terrified child. She picked her up, she carried her. She found a German lady, and she found a lady who was suffering with dementia or some form of mental health illness. And they would walk naked together, just women. And eventually there would be a herd of them, all walking slowly, just in the same direction. And eventually they would feel like they were being lifted up in like a vortex. And then when she did remember, she was on board this spacecraft. Now, there's a lot of interest in imagery with the owl, and it's very prevalent within alien abduction cases that the owl is used to mask or screen or be an implanted memory of the actual visitors. People see owls, deers, raccoons, creatures with big eyes, and that's like these creatures just masking their actual identity. So whenever there would be a juxtaposition for Susan from seeing these red ball of lights with the flame inside and owls. And there'd be another juxtaposition of Susan having these weird dream states of seeing a fox and these naked women walking through the tall grass. So what Susan claims was these women, they were from all over the world, just all marching steadily towards an unseen, I don't know what you'd want to call it, a tractor beam, a vortex, anti-grav, and then they would appear in this cavernous cathedral, abomination, factory, abattoir, or whatever it was. So she saw women from all over the world there. And it was really heartbreaking to think about that young girl. You know, it's heartbreaking for all of them, because how many people, and I'm sorry if this is a bit close to the bone for some of you, how many people out there are sat there waiting for someone to come through that door that they've lost a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, waiting for that missing person to be found, waiting for a knock on the door from the FBI or the police saying, we found your wife, we found your daughter, we found your mother, whatever the case. And just knowing they're never going to be found. They're not even on this planet. They don't even exist, because Susan saw the older and the more diseased and the more broken women being entirely harvested. And what she described was it was like a cone, and there's all these women in this cone. They couldn't get out, and some of them are trying. They were scrambling to get out, and there was some device in the middle, and it would simply go and get one, remove her completely of her skin, harvest her, and thump, would no longer exist. Hopefully, this is some kind of psychological condition that affects the human race to believe that we are being abducted by aliens. But since December 2017, since June 22nd of 2020, when the Pentagon and the United States Air Force and the American government released footage from the very best fighter pilots in the world in the very best aircraft chasing unidentified aerial phenomenons, aka unidentified flying objects, and not knowing who they are, and putting a task force in place to find out who they are, in then correlation with your president forming a space force, you've got to start thinking, because Gary McKinnon, the hacker, the British hacker who hacked into the Pentagon and NASA, he claimed he saw files and documents saying that there was United States Air Force personnel no longer on Earth. He said there was aircraft, advanced aircraft, right, that were not on Earth. And he said there was a Space Force. And that was before Space Force was launched. And the American government did everything in their power to extradite Gary McKinnon, right? And the British wouldn't let him go, because they probably thought, you know what? He's actually seen the truth. You know, let's not make us any bigger than it is, right? And a few years after Gary McKinnon discovered what he hacked from the Pentagon and NASA, President Trump says we are going to have a Space Force. What's that to defend us from? These unidentified aerial phenomena,
right,
asteroids, rogue satellites, nuclear attack from space. Very strange coincidence, guys. So people say to me, right, and I'm not a conspiracist, I don't have all the answers. Do our governments know? Do our governments know if this is true? Right? Right? Yes, they do know. They do know. They do know, right? Of course they know. Of course they know. They've known since the first spaceship crashed or the first communication. They've known, okay? They've known. But people say, is there an agreement? Is there an agenda? Blah, blah, blah. I don't believe so, right? I really don't believe I don't believe there's an agreement. Because when I go and cut my lawn and there's an ant's nest, I don't go and make an agreement with the ants and say, I'm not going to put the lawnmower over your ant's nest. I don't care about the ants. The ants can't do anything back, right? We are the ants. We don't have negotiating power. We can't do anything. The only thing we can, the only thing we could probably threaten the aliens with is that if you carry on, if you come and take too many of us, we're going to nuke ourselves, right? That's probably the only thing, right? So if there is an Area 51 and there is crashed alien technology, I guarantee, yes, we are working on it. We are trying to use it. We are trying to work it out because we need to even the odds. We need to tool up and we need to stop these things coming into our planet and taking people, right? They have no right to do that, okay? They have no right to do that. And I think it's very telling. There are more and more of these videos now of these objects coming past the ISS and you see these lasers and missiles shooting out from the ground, things chasing them off. Because I think, yeah, we are tooling up. We are tooling up because Ronald Reagan, he wanted the creation of the Star Wars project, the SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, or the Space Defense Initiative. He wanted rail guns, nuclear missile launchers. He wanted like James Bond, Moonraker space suits that could fire lasers. He wanted planes that could fly bombs up into outer space. He wanted it all, right? People could say, well, it's the height of the Cold War. Let's beat the Ruskies to it so they don't do that to us, blah, blah, blah. But what was telling was in 1985 at the Reykjavik Peace Accord between the United States and Russia, that Gorbachev, the guy who said the phenomenon of UFOs is real and it must be treated seriously, sat with his enemy, or a supposed enemy, Ronald Reagan, and they signed an agreement saying, should a threat come from not of this world, that America and United States of America, the USSR and the USA would work together to see that threat off and put aside all the differences. They know, and they can't do anything about it. They might be trying, but there's nothing they can do. And what we need to do is, right, we need to stop judging, labeling, bullying, trolling, and being horrific to people who are having experiences, right? Because if it is psychological, then you're mocking someone with a mental health condition. And if it is real, right, then we shouldn't be afflicted to that. And you should have some more sensitivity for it, because one day the trolls, your daughters, your wives, you probably haven't got wives if you sat at home trolling all day, bullying people. You probably sat in a basement somewhere. There's my judgment for the trolls, okay? Right? Let's have some sensitivity to these people. Let's not attacking ourselves. Let's break out this tribalistic nature, right? And go to our governments, to our leaders, and say, what is happening and what are you doing? And Susan in Harvest, The True Story of Alien Abduction, right? Her story, her account, her testimony is a warning for everyone. And it's also a courageous account of one woman who's lost her life to what she perceives to be alien abduction, as a warning for us to let's buck up, let's wise up, let's go to our governments and say, tool up and stop it. And if you can't do it, get someone in power who can.
Gavin, thank you for joining me here on Center of Light Radio, my friend. I really enjoyed taking this all, and this is such a different twist for this particular phenomenon that's come across my level of awareness. One, the way you describe these, I think you said herders. What was the first group?
There's shepherds, the controllers,
and
you've got these weird jellyfish things, and then you've got red-faced women.
Never heard of it. And
No.
the story, I can tell that it had a traumatic effect on you as to why it's such a good book that will bring out the emotions of anyone who would read it. It's a great ride.
Thank
And
you,
it's
Keith. I
real.
really
And it's
appreciate it.
real. It's absolutely real. This is not
The,
just some fabricated story.
the reason it's the true story of alien abduction, right? I don't know if I can't prove it's real. I can't disprove it. But it was true to Susan. Whatever happened to
Bingo.
Susan, she believes it to be real. She doesn't want it to be real. If it's psychological, if it's a fantasy, a delusion, whatever, that is up for the reader to decide. But Susan is not alone in her account. There are tens of thousands of people out there now, maybe hundreds of thousands throughout history, maybe millions. I think it's part of our heritage. It's part of our bloodline. There's positive abductions and incredibly negative ones, okay? And all I want people to do is understand Susan's testimony and Harvest, the true story of alien abduction. Don't label her and judge her. If it is psychological or you have a different interpretation, then contact me at harvestalienabduction@gmail.com. I really want to hear from you. I won't judge or label you. I want to hear your opinions. And can I just say thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Keith, because you are an amazing guy. Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul was an incredibly important book to me this summer in a very difficult summer. Your own personal experiences give everyone on this planet hope, but there is something we're fighting for. We're not all destined to be herded into spaceships and harvested and abducted, experimented and hybridized for whatever reason. Your experiences and your beliefs gives everyone hope that if we change for the better, not only can we save this world, but we can have a fantastic future exploring the galaxy.
And it's about us working together. Being a
Yep.
unified humanity is the key to ending all problems on any possible level.
Yeah, we've got to drop this tribalistic nature. We can't help it. Black versus white, Christian versus Muslim, gay versus straight. I know people, right, who'll have a punch up in a bar over football. Look at our
Right.
political systems, right? Look at our political systems, right? People tearing each other apart. Brexit in the UK. Guys, we need to work together. We've all got to get in the same trench together in the same foxhole, because some of the things that are coming and taking us, they think we're cattle. They think we're not worth it. They think we're the dolphins of the sea, or we're ants in an ant's nest, right? And guess what? We're better than that. And there'll come a day, right? There will come a day when we will get our teeth and we will get our claws, and they won't want to come back here. But we got to do that together. And it starts with Susan, and it starts with taking on board her message in Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, and then taking that to our leaders and saying, stop it, help us, tell us the truth. Thank you, Keith. You're an amazing guy. I love you to bits.
Thank you, Brother Gavin. I've been posting I've been posting in the forum a link to his soon to be released, in fact, tomorrow soon
It's
to
out
be
now.
released. It's out now?
Number 1 and 2 in the UK right now. It came out at midnight. Number
Oh, that's
one,
right. You're ahead of me. Fantastic,
yeah.
bro. Congrats,
Thank you
my
very
friend.
much. Number 1 and then number 2 on Kindle. So 1 and 2 in the charts. Thank you so very much. And Keith, you
Love it.
make this all worth it. And everybody, if you haven't read Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul, it's a beautiful book. If you're listening to Keith's show now and you haven't read his book, as soon as this show's over, right, go and read his book. I want that wallet full, so when I come to his house and steal it, it's full.
Brother, appreciate you. Keep me posted about what's happening. Is there going to be a part 2 of Harvest?
I don't
By
know.
the way, that name Harvest is such an amazing title for the intensity of this book. I mean, that's exactly what is transpiring. It's harvesting, but harvesting used in this regard is not a good thing whatsoever.
Susan came up with the terminology. She said very early on into the interview something along the line is, I wait every night to be plucked from the earth like corn. And that's what she believes, harvested, and I don't know. I hope Susan's safe. I hope that this never happens to her, that it's over. But one can never tell. I'm very fond of Susan, as I am of all my subjects. It affects me profoundly. I'm bipolar. I had a mini stroke. I'm very passionate, as you can all tell. I am an odd guy. I'm a passionate guy. I've got a lot of conviction in my beliefs. I wouldn't do this if I didn't believe in it. And I think, Keith, this is my last investigation. I'm 45 now. It's time for me to come out the darkness. I've been shining a light in the darkness for nearly 10 years. Well, all my life since I've been investigating, but like 7-8 years of writing these accounts down and getting to know these subjects. And maybe it's time for me now to step into the light, find love.
How about you and I get on a show on Discovery or the Travel Channel? You and I going out and investigating some of these holy man sites somewhere in the mountains, and you and I, you see what I'm saying? And we call it in search of God, or whatever it is. What was the anyway? That's the idea. We just have this reality show. We talk about it. So and so lives up here, and so and so lives up here in the Himalayas, and it's said that he could be the guy who, and he supposedly does this thing, and in search of the truth.
Whatever. Sign me up. When can I start? Let me have a shave first. Right. I haven't slept. I must warn everyone, right? If I seem a little wired tonight, I haven't slept in about 35 hours. Susan Plunkett, if you are listening, or from Mission to Venus and Wanderers from Earth, I am going to bed in about an hour, okay? Because she's been nagging me all day, Keith. She said, Gavin, just close your eyes, just go to sleep. And I was like, I will. It's launch day in the UK of Harvest, the true story of alien abduction. But as most people know, I'm also a publicist and publisher at John Hunt Publishing. We've got lots and lots of amazing books coming out tomorrow. Not only Harvest, we've got Dungeon Party, which is about Dungeons and Dragons. We've got Christianity Expanding, which is about Christianity, obviously, and its effect on the world. And if anybody out there, if you've written a book or looking to write a book, maybe you've got a manuscript, maybe you've been thinking about becoming an author, get in touch with me at John Hunt Publishing. And who knows, maybe we can make your writing dreams a reality. But if you're looking for more information on Harvest, the true story of alien abduction, go to sixth-books.com, theparanormalchronicles.com. There's loads of amazing stuff on aliens, UFOs, ghosts, hauntings, demons, you name it. There's tons of stuff here, all information on ghost sex and haunted horror of Haverfordwest. By the way, Keith, you said that perfectly earlier on. That was brilliant. I'm on Facebook as Gavin Lee Davies and L Davies author. Follow the Paranormal Chronicles anywhere. We've got a lovely group page on Facebook. We've got a like page on Facebook. Instagram, there's loads of pictures of Pembrokeshire, and that's for Paranormal Chronicles. On Twitter, at Paranormal Chron. Keep in touch. Keep in touch. The group page, the Paranormal Chronicles. Follow the wolf. There's a big moon and a wolf, right? It's great. Keith posts there. My authors post there. Loads of good, juicy stuff. There's a link right there, right?
I've been posting all night. Yes.
There's a link there right now, right?
There's
Homecoming.
Yes, that's
crossing
right.
the bridge to the Sill.
Yeah.
So easy, guys. You can click on that link and you can buy Keith's book right now. You can read it tonight and talk to Keith tomorrow, and it will change your life. I cannot give it enough of a stronger endorsement. Keith, his book, his words, and his show helped me through a very, very dark time around June, July time. And I love you to bits. So
back at you, my friend.
Thank you enough.
Blessings.
Let's do that TV show. Let's do it.
Yeah, Gavin and I are going to put together a reality show called Spirit Hunters or God Hunters or Avatar Hunters. And we go to these different away sites, and supposedly up in the mountains or in that hut is a man or a woman who is said to be, boy, I would just dig that. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard. I'm going to Florida tomorrow morning. I'm leaving. Going to do a Crossing the Bridge to the Soul experimental workshop. We're going to be talking about awareness expansion. I'm going to show you a glimpse of your soul by redirecting your awareness to these different focal points. I'm going to open you up. You're going to get a glimpse, at least. Now the work begins, and we're going to be talking about a breath technique that will help you not only to manifest, I don't like that pseudo word, but you get it, your life with a lot less difficulty, but also to help remove a block. As soon as something transpires in your life that's crushing, could be potentially with you for a long while, I'm going to give you a breathing technique that's going to move you right through it, because your energy is going to begin to vibrate, and the chaotic, static, the situation won't be able to become static. It won't be able to stick to you. So you're going to remove it. I am going to take a Q&A as well as help you get out of the noise of the world. And I don't mean the noise of the world. I mean the noise of yourself. Because until you do that, you're basically resonating with noise. So it requires clarity, absolute crystal clarity. How does one become clear in such a short amount of time? You're not going anywhere. You're going to be doing at this for a while, just like many people who are choosing the path of illumination. You have to want it, like you want your next breath. There is nothing else. No religion is going to paint the picture or illuminate the path for you. Your breath is what will do it. Because without it, you will go to the other side, and then you will know the truth and realize that everything you've been searching for on this rock is just for the hell of it. You are loved beyond measure. It is my pleasure to hang out with you, always. It's because of you that I do what I do. I love you. Peace, love, and light. I'll see you. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to maybe take a day off. Go experience some ocean. Sounds like a wonderful notion. You're loved beyond measure. Take care, my friends.